So when you think about AI, you think about tech. And when you think about tech, you think about this overcomplicated thing that I'm going to bring within my business that's going to mess everything up when Google Sheets is working just fine. So today I'm going to show you the AI scaling model where you can add 20,000 to 100,000. You can replace this number with anything that you want, depending on the size of your business, of AI contributed profits without overcomplicating your business. And everyone is telling you right now, AI enablement is the thing, or this model, the AI transformation model, is the only model that's going to get you to whatever point that you want to get. Or you should do audits first, and then you're like, there are many different models you're going to see being pitched to you if you're in the organization or you're in this industry. But you need to understand one thing, because this is something that I've noticed within the businesses we've worked with here in the Middle East, that most of them are burned. Either they're in the real estate industry, financial industry, whatever industry they are in, or they're in SME or mid market or enterprise, and even governmental agencies. They tell you we did not get the ROI that we wanted out of AI. And the people that got the ROI are doing something different, and we want to know what is that thing that they are doing differently. So in today's video, I want to show you what we do with our clients, and this goes in three phases. I'm going to show you all three phases in full details. This number over here, $20,000, is our proof of concept number, where we prove that this has done something, or this AI got an ROI. And then we have criteria in terms of implementing this AI, where 80% is should of the job or the execution should be done by the AI, and 20% should be by the decision maker, or whoever is, or the user, let's say, in general. But we don't get to this point immediately, to the agentic point. We start with an assistant, then we go to a co-pilot, then we start seeing where should we fit in order to go to the AI agentic solution that we want. So before everything, let's try to frame the problem that exists within the landscape right now. Problem number one, I can tell you, is that people are tired of presentations. And usually, after the end of the meetings that I have, when I'm alone with that executive, they open up and say, we're tired of X company. They came and presented something to us, which took them 6 months to complete. And it had Chat GPT 3 in there, where we're at Chat GPT 5 right now. So it had an old model because everything moves fast and everything has changed. So it's kind of useless of that AI strategy based on old data that took them a lot of time to create. So they're tired of presentations at the point, and they haven't gotten the ROI that they want out of AI, and they want AI because look at the companies that are going to AWS, or they're going to Google Cloud, or they're going to Microsoft Azure. They have so much demand that the supply is not enough for that demand, meaning that corporate want AI, and there's a high demand towards AI. Just have that idea in your mind. But majority of them are not getting to that execution phase, and this is a tiny problem that we have over here. And we got to this point where we are today by people doing several things, or these organizations addressing or tackling AI in four different, let's say, non-efficient ways. Point number one, they bought tools that they did not need because a vendor came in and said, we have raised this much money, and this tool can save your HR department 70 hours of work if you implement it this way. One, they couldn't integrate it within their business because of the systems they have. Two, they had no clue if they need it or not. And three, it looked like an amazing tool, but we did not need or did not solve any constraints within the business right now. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, many said that we want AI. So you'd be amazed with this fact as well. A lot of meetings go and start this way. I want AI. No clear problem statement. I even was told by someone that said, if you just start a business to translate I want AI into a proper problem statement without the execution of AI, you do really well, because there's a big gap for people to understand where should we implement or integrate AI within our business. So most of them are dabbling without direction. Point number three is they start with solutions and not problems, meaning that they look at the latest tools. They think, okay, maybe we need this new HR AI powered tool and not this sales voice agent tool that's going to do our calls or whatever. But they don't look at the problem, but they look at the solution first. And that's one of the wrong approaches that I've seen. And point number four is, of course, we got a lot of presentations, and there's no execution towards that presentation. What do we do with these presentations? So all this, if you combine it, you can see that the technology as a tech is there, but humans are not ready to hit that point. And let's break this down and simplify it even further. And this is the simple formula I look at, is that it comes down to context and prompt. How do I talk to this AI, LLM, AI agent, whatever you want to call it, in a way that it understands me? How do I talk to it if it made mistakes and tell it to fix its mistakes? And how do I tell it what I am, what I do, what my business is, what's the context, or what, just to understand what we're doing over here? That's how you get the output you want. But you seeing the news or the report saying that AI adoption is low is not because of AI doesn't deliver the value that we want. It's more because of people don't you know how to prompt or give it enough context. And this is a big opportunity as well. If you want to just tap into this opportunity, this alone could be a business. And you can master this really easily as well. There's a lot of resources online. So the failure, and I would put it, the micro level individual problem we have is this, and the macro level problem that I just explained above. So this is how the problems exist right now within the landscape. And the biggest insight I would give you right now is, before doing anything with AI, before looking at even Chat GPT, do we need an assistant? Do we need this API? Do we need whatever tool? Look at what we are doing. What is our starting point? Every single business has, or every single individual has a different starting point. For example, if someone is a founder, the starting point is the different departments that they have: the marketing department, the sales department, the finance department, and so on. That's the starting point to look where are the opportunities for AI solutions. If you're a product manager, your starting point is the product, and under that is the features. So, which features can I add AI in? And you draw the workflows and find the features. If you're a department head, your department is your entry point, which is all the sections under the department that you have. It's not of I want AI or how do I implement AI and so on. So, first, starting point, depending on who you are, what you do, and so on. Point number two is what decisions we need to make. And then we look at the results. Then, how can we get the ROI we want? And then we go looking into the tools and everything else and so on. And these are three main questions I always ask when before we start any project, is that where are we losing the most time? Where are we losing the most money? And where are we keeping talent doing low value work when they're highly paid talent that could do high value work, which is they can give us more ROI for the money we're spending in terms of salaries and everything else. And this is the intersection that is the AI gold mine. And the intersection is usually the answers of these three questions over here before starting and looking for solutions. So now let's move on to the model itself, the AI scaling model. So let's talk about the three phases over here. So you can add any amount of profits that you have over here, depending on the size of your organization, in AI contributed profits. And this has three main phases. Phase number one is context and the setup and proof of concept as well. Phase number two is the operations, meaning that what can we or how can we have this multi agent orchestration layer on top of all of this and make everything work. And phase number three is how can we scale this while maintaining the metrics that we have put and not break everything or break the system. So essentially, just turn up the volume and see what breaks and fix the holes and keep on turning it up and scaling it. That's phase number three. So essentially, if we put this in words, the outcome of phase number one is AI knows your business. The outcome of phase number two is you get your proof of concept, you'll get a certain multi-agent orchestration workflows going on, and so on. And phase number three is you go and scale this at high margins. So let's start with phase number one and go into the details of phase number one. So, why AI doesn't know your business right now? So, when I think about this in terms of context, I think about, okay, I'm hiring this new employee, and listen to me how I frame this. I'm hiring this new employee. This new employee is super, super smart and has no idea about my business. I want to onboard them. And I even if I want to take it to extreme, for example, I especially do this for creative kind of projects, is that I assume the employee is also blind, they cannot see anything and they cannot hear anything, and they're just there. And they're super smart. I need to make use of that. So and the reason I say it, I use this for creative projects because I need, for example, to explain the UI in a way in text format to AI so it gets it right, right? So I kind of go into super, super details to just get them to visualize without even seeing what I want them to create. So that's how I think about context. So the setup is very simple. I'm going to show you this graph over here. It's easier. So we have a certain folder that we create. So depending on the use case, there's this context folder that's put into every AI. So there are many best practices to this. I think I've noted them here. I'm going to tell you them one by one, but there are many best practices in terms of how long do you keep these folders? How do you index them? How do you put a README file? So we think of it like a library, meaning that if I go to a library, I know the IDs of I have first a paper that is going to tell me this section is for self-help, this section is for education, like different sections. And then I'm going to understand these numbers, which book is where, right? And this is how we organize the context depending on the use case that we have. And then depending on the LLM as well, you can have commands, you can have skills, you can have a certain memory. And if you have a team working on a certain thing, you can have team accounts if you're using Claude, for example, Anthropic, and so on. So it depends on the use case. But the main point is give it enough context in a file structure that's shared among a lot of people if you have a team working on this. And the number one reason AI fails is because it doesn't know you as context and it doesn't understand you as you don't know how to prompt it. And we fix this at this phase first, and this is the sole and number one focus over here. So that's phase number one. We solve that. Once everything is in place, then you can build on top of that foundation as much as you want. So phase number two is operation. So building AI employees that remove constraints. Very important point over here, remove constraints, meaning that the, we add AI as a tool, and this tool is to remove constraints within a business so we can go to the next level. We don't just add AI for the sake of looking cool, marketing, or looking showing our competitors we're doing something cool over here. Look at us and so on. It's more of what is the ROI out of this. And once we set up the context, we look at the biggest bottleneck within the business and we start building AI for that exact thing. And these cycles usually take between 2 to 4 weeks. And once that constraint is gone, we look to the next constraint and start building AI for that or an AI agent for that. So, what is the $10,000 per month criteria? This is a criteria that's coming from the average full time salary of an employee within your business. So, we look at the tasks worth $10,000 per month and we try to eliminate them with AI, meaning that how can we make this employee work on more on higher leverage tasks and let this repetitive task over here that's costing us $10,000 per month be done by an AI agent? And how can we do this while maintaining the profits that we have within the business? And how can we do this without overcomplicating everything within the business and multiply the delivery capacity we have in terms of we can do more work now because we have this AI agent? And how can we do this that we don't need to add more hours of work within the business itself? So this is a criteria we follow strictly, because what is the point of adding AI if it does not meet this criteria over here? And the constraint sprint cycle. So for every single constraint, what I highly suggest you do is first identify that constraint and then write requirements, a requirements matrix around that constraint. And if you want to research this or look at this, think of or go to NASA standards or no, just go to NASA standards. You guys see how they write the requirements. It's kind of the requirements engineering. So every requirement will be like the AI agent shall complete a particular task in 3 minutes of time. The AI agent shall do X, Y, Z, and so on. So we identify like a big spreadsheet of constraints, of requirements for a certain constraint. And then we design or map these constraints to an AI agent that removes this constraint and meets all the requirements that we have set. And then we start building the solution. And then we start measuring whether we are meeting those constraints or not, the constraint and the requirements or not. So essentially, the requirements we set for a particular constraint, it's what guides us in terms of building this AI solution. And we don't come in and tell you, let's add the voice agent because it's going to save you a lot of time. That's not the approach we take. And that's not the approach of this model that I'm showing you as well. The approach of the model is based on requirements that should be met by the end. And just a nuance here, a caveat that I want to make: AI itself is a very probability driven kind of Bayesian theory kind of technology that we have over here. So if you set these constraints really strictly at the very beginning, when you don't have any clue or don't have enough experience in terms of AI solution, what happens is when you come to measure, these constraints all break, meaning that there's no point of setting the constraints and everything breaks as you go down the line. But because of the probability driven kind of nature of I don't recommend you to put very strict constraint or requirements at the very beginning, so you don't break them at the end, but make it lenient and adjust as you go. So this is kind of you're gonna learn this with theory. So very simply put, we have context. AI knows you right now. We set the context, we set the base. That's phase number one. Everything AI understands you and you know how to prompt it. Point number two, we have proof of concept. We tested it on real tasks. Phase number three begins where we tackle each constraint one by one, depending on the department, whether it's a marketing constraint, sales constraint, whatever constraint we have in our business. And then there we go to phase number three, which is in a bit, but the common constraint to target is in three departments that we have found is delivery, which is a product. Let's say onboarding takes too long, or the clients don't get updates. It's too manual driven. The emails people write it, and it's too time consuming. We don't have any personalization. This is especially for luxury brands and so on. We don't have any personalizations, birthdays, and so on. The documents are scattered. Nobody has it in one place. Like a lot of things that comes with delivery. Then marketing is that content creation is taking too much time. Now with Nano Bananas Pro and all these VO3 and Gemini and all these tools, you can get really creative in terms of how you can do the marketing, or the distribution is inconsistent, or we're not tracking our funnel, where are leads going, where are the leads are not qualified. These are all things that come into marketing. And then the sales comes in terms of we're not following up fast enough, we're not calling the leads as soon as they come to the call, or all of those kind of things that comes with sales. So that is the common constraints that we target and you can look into as well. And this comes into phase two, by the way. And phase number three is about scaling. So now we have the employees in place, we have the context, everything is given, everything is clear. Now this the question here becomes, how can or is AI handling 80% of the work, and are we just commanding it in terms of fixing things or adding it more context, like one line of context, or updating the context and so on, or strategizing in order how to do this better? So essentially, what happens is the AI does 80% of the work, which is the delivery and everything that we just set it to do for that particular business. And you handle 20% of the strategy, or to communicating with people, relationships, or making critical decisions, and so on. And everything is managed with a dashboard. You can have a terminal, because if some because we've worked with some businesses who are very tech savvy, they wanted a terminal that they can communicate with, something like Cloud Code or the terminal UIs that you see. So what happens is that we scale the delivery systems and the growth, which is marketing systems, just to get to this point and make sure the metrics are still intact. And remember when we talked about requirements over here being the core of everything and this model as well, we come back to requirements even at this time, saying that are our requirements still intact? Are they still met as we scale everything? If not, let's see how we can fix it and get back to meeting those requirements. So, very important point right now, the regional context. So, what works outside does not necessarily work here in the UAE or in the Middle East in general. And what one big mistake I've seen people do is that they come to the Middle East thinking that, okay, we're going to do this lead generation strategy, we're going to keep on pushing this direction very hard, or do something that's completely not aligned with this region at all, meaning that they don't close deals. And 1 to 2 years, they just go to a different country saying that the Middle East did not work for us. And it's not that the Middle East did not work. This is proof that the Middle East works. And we are in business in Middle East. And I know a lot of successful businesses as well. Is the thing that they didn't understand the regional context. The regional context has four main parts. Point number one is the vision alignment. If you're in the UAE, look at D33, look at the infrastructure we have, look at the vision we have set for 2033, look at the AI initiative that we have, and make sure you are aligned with everything and moving in that direction. If you're going to a different direction, opposite direction, that may not have as much as demand as this direction we're headed. And usually that direction is the future direction because our leaders set those visions for us so we can achieve them and go forward and push this country forward and do our part contributing. If you're looking at Saudi Arabia, look at Vision 2030. And depending on the region you're looking at, look at the visions they have there. in place, because those gives momentums. It's what pushes everything forward in the direction. Point number two is language processing. A big complaint I get is that these LLM models are optimized for English. The recent one is when someone just told me is that, okay, the sales voice agents are great, but does it work for Arabic? I tested it in Arabic, but it did not do really well. How can I put this in the region? How do I make it work in the region and so on? What about the dialects? Does it get the dialects right or not? So this is another important thing. Point number three is the cultural decisions. How are decisions made in the Middle East? This, I mean, it needs a video by itself, but how are decisions made in the Middle East? How does things move forward? How does a contract get done? What is the amount of money that I put within a proposal that does not get delayed because of procurement and so on? What are the limitations of everything? So this is very important. And point number four is regulations. This is this is even more important. You need to be compliant with everything that's happening over here. So this is why regional context really, really matters. And there was this big company that came to set up in the UAE, and the deal did not happen. It's because they did not understand this region, and they did not understand how we operate business here in the UAE and how everything moves. That's just a lesson for you that this is super, super, super important. Now, to recap everything, the AI scaling model, we set the problem, we looked at the insight, we knew the landscape, we looked at the phases that we need to go through. Phase one, which is the context, making the AI understand who you are and talking to it in the right way, depending on your business, your SOPs, or the documents that you have within your business. Phase number two is operations, basically getting AI to do certain operations under a certain criteria and going through requirements, which is going through these constrained sprints that you set the requirement and test the requirement at the end and keep on stacking that and compounding that. And phase number three is scaling this, where AI handles 80% of the work and you or the business does 20% of the strategic work and relationships and the human work. And then you grow your business through a managed dashboard. And always think in systems